What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. We have the long-awaited balance patch. It's finally here this week. I am a little disappointed to see that there's only 8 heroes and 2 artifacts, which might be a little light, but the only reason I bring this up is because there was a balance patch. I think it was 2 balance patches ago. We had a massive patch notes with a ton of characters, and last time I did talk with Smilegate, they did say they were going to try to do more of those. This does look a little light, but let me not get too negative about it just yet. Maybe we got some good stuff cooking up here. So without further ado, I haven't looked at this yet. I do see a Fallen Cecilia. Oh, a Remnant Violet. I was actually pretty surprised about that. Is it coincidence that there's 2 dark units, ML5s, being brought out? Let me know in the comments, guys, if you already pulled Lone Wolf Para. I unfortunately didn't stream today. I'm still shop refreshing, but if you guys want to join me tomorrow, I'll do my summons and we'll test out Lone Wolf Para. But hopefully you guys did well on your summons if you did. And good luck if you haven't yet. Here we go. Let's go ahead and check out everything here. So 2 dark ML5s. We got Lilias, Diene, Krau, Ludwig, and Roz. Kind of like an OG crew here. So I do like to see Adventure Roz buffs. His last significant change was like him getting the barrier protection for the back row unit. And he was actually very viable. So I could see him coming back into prominence. Krau, amazing Guild Wars. Sometimes RTA. Ludwig, maybe some people are going to cook up some more damage dealing effects, cleaving with Ludwig. And then Diene, Lilias. Both of these units are already borderline great. Sometimes coming in out of the meta. But yeah, let's stop checking those out. Let's go and just jump straight into the changes. So first up, FCC. I know a lot of people have been asking about this because Fallen Cecilia has just not been relevant for a while, where in the start of the game, she was one of the best, if not the best tanks for a very long time. So let's go and check out Mistake, right, which is the skill 1. And we're going to get some damage dealt and some soul burn, ignore F-res. Okay, very interesting. So I believe before this soul burn used to be like a cooldown reduction. Yeah. But now it's going to be moved to the S1 and we can do ignore F-res. So we can even provoke high F-res units, which is nice. Strong Instinct, the passive with a barrier. She's going to get a straight up 10% max health on the passive alongside the barrier getting barrier strength increased too. Sorry, I always forget. Let me just read the Awaken. It does look the same, though. Okay. So, barrier strength plus max health. Definitely helps. She is an HP scaling unit. And then Spear of Resentment, the skill 3. Ooh, wow. Attacks alone is an explosion. She's going to dispel buffs. She's going to be a knight that we can use for... Wait. That's going to be speed imprint? So, she's going to have a dispel. This cannot trigger counterattack. And the damage dealt is increased on both the... Skill 1 and Skill 3. Cooldown is getting reduced by a turn. We're getting more souls for it too. This kind of shows that Smilegate wants us to use her probably with Lone Wolf Para, or at least with more aggressive compositions, where we can use her as the anchor to kind of protect our squishier high offense units. Maybe we can build her some damage on her as well. She does HP scale. She's going to get bonus HP here. And I remember a popular build being, you still want her to have high health to tank for the squad, but since she is HP scaling, if you just give her like a little bit of crit alongside that HP, it can really hurt, especially against squishy units. So I'm very curious to see how this pans out. But yeah, they're definitely trying to lean her more into like the Lone Wolf Para, or at least a more aggressive kind of knight, because we're gonna have a Dispel too, which is huge. So I could see Lone Wolf Para alongside Fallen Cecilia being just a problem. You probably have to build damage because you'll be down 1 damage dealer. But speaking of damage dealers, we do have one coming up that is a dark unit. But yeah, if I have time, guys, I'll retouch on Fallen Cecilia. This is definitely an interesting change, not anywhere near what I thought. And I'm curious if that's why they waited so long in this buff. They knew that they wanted to release her alongside, or at least after the Lone Wolf Para release, to maybe make this have more relevance, make more sense. That's all I can think of. But yeah, I'll think on that one a little more. It does look pretty good, but I don't know if that's what most people wanted for their Fallen Cecilias, especially if they don't want to play like Lone Wolf Para. Remnant Violet here, very light on the changes, only on the skill 3. Let's read the Awakened version. It looks like we're going to get a combat readiness increase of 50%, and we're going to get a damage dealt increase with a cooldown for turn. And don't forget, Remnant Violet can also cycle through turns, right, with Soul Burn on skill 1, things like that. So this doesn't seem like too much, but it's pretty relevant. And then I'm assuming this is the same thing, guys. The combat readiness 50%. If you combine that with like Lone Wolf Para Swift Attack, that's like 100% combat readiness, or a lot of combat readiness, just if you want to think of it that way. I'm assuming this is also similar like Fallen Cecilia. They really wanted to combo with the Lone Wolf Para here to get that instant extra turn, essentially. Damage dealt is always welcome, and I actually think Remnant Violet didn't really need too much, if anything at all. So any extra damage, combat readiness, even if you don't run with Lone Wolf Para, very welcome, right? Especially for the Violet fans out there. I am one of them. So very light on the Moonlight 5 stars. Let's jump into the red, green, blues. We got Lilias first up, and her skill 1. Oh, interesting. Are we going to start... Are we moving away from the crit hit chance? Which was changed not too long ago as well. Oh, no. Okay. So they're moving it around from the skill 1 into the skill 2 passive. And there's a lot of changes here. So it used to dispel 1 debuff from the caster, right? After this procs after an enemy uses a non-attack skill. Now it's going to be all debuff. So that's pretty big from 1 debuff. And can only be activated once every 2 turns. But it says this can also only be activated. I think that's just the change in the suppression. Suppression can only be activated. This can only be activated. I'm not sure what the difference here is, guys, besides the keyword of suppression being changed to can only be activated. I'm not sure if that's an actual red to green buff or that's just a change in terminology for the keyword for the activation. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing something there. And then ready, load, fire her skill 3, the awakened version. We're losing the crit hit chance by 50%. But now when the target is provoked, damage dealt is increased. So are we just losing out on the 50 crit here? Because we had it on the skill 1 and the skill 3, right? And now it's just going to be moved straight up into the passive, which I guess is the same thing overall, right? We move it here and then it affects both skill 1, skill 3. Okay. So definitely just a net positive there. The only thing I'm confused on is that little keyword, but shouldn't be too important here. Damage dealt increased also on the skill 3. Forgot to highlight that. Let's see what they're trying to say. They just wanted to deal more damage to a provoked target. So I'm assuming in some setups, especially maybe like Arena and then Guild War offense or defense, you can maybe go back to those big Lilias skill 3 bombs. Or try to proc out. Yeah, you want to get the suppression provoke, and then also you get additional cleansing, right? Not just 1 dispel of a debuff. So I guess that's pretty cool. And then they're going to change the exclusive equipment here to grant immunity instead of just damage dealt on skill 3, which I'm assuming the damage dealt is going to be probably similar to the EE, and that's just going to be kind of baked in to the effect now. Okay, so very cool. We can get immunity. A lot more utility on our kit. That's actually very, very interesting. Pretty significant buffs as well, I would say. Now, what do they do with Diene? Blessing of the Goddess, which was the barrier. I believe this is the skill 2. It used to dispel 2 debuffs. Now, with the Blessing of the Goddess, grants increased attack. But her skill 3 is to give it increased attack. So let's see what they're changing. But first, yeah, so we lose that. I'm assuming the dispel. Yep. Dispel's going to be here on the skill 3. So we move all debuff dispel, which is huge, onto Diene's skill 3. And she will also have increased pen resistance, which I think this might be our first actual buff of increased pen resistance. If I'm not mistaken, only Ilinov has the passive. I don't think we have an actual castable buff yet. Let me know if I'm correct on that, but I'm pretty sure. And so that means Diene is going to be, for people that don't have Ilinov especially, or let's say Ilinov is banned out, pen resistance 50% on her skill 3 plus the dispel all buffs. And she still gets to keep the increased attack here on the skill 2. You'll just have to choose which order because she doesn't have, you know, like those extra turns. There's a lot of combat readiness on her kit, though, especially on the skill 3, so keep that in mind. All right, very, very interesting. I like that. Another option to have a pen-resistant unit. Let's see here. We have Blue Krau, and it looks like just his skill 3 is getting changed. Let's go ahead and check the Awakened version. We're going to lose the barrier. That used to scale off caster's max health, and instead now, so not with Blue Krau. Maybe I saw some Blue Kraus, but I remember that like Last Rider Krau especially, a lot of people were trying like lifesteal builds. So now on his skill 3, he's actually going to absorb health, which is pretty nice because a lot of times, right, for Krau to get his skill 3 off, you want him to get, you know, for it to do a lot of damage, he's going to be low health. And now that we rip the skill 3, we can get that life back, which a lot of other knights have with some of their effects on their skill 3s and things like that. When the skill is available, according to cooldown count, it receives 20% damage suffered by all allies in their place. Very interesting. Built-in Aureus on top of that. So now we can run him on a different artifact. A lot of people like things like Holy Sacrifice. And as long as the skill 3 isn't ripped yet, we are receiving 20% of the damage shared. I really like this. And if you guys didn't forget, Blue Krau was actually on that Awakening, that big Awakening revamp. He was one of the characters they were going to adjust. And so now we're seeing some changes here finally. Soul Burn on the skill 3, we can decrease damage dealt and attacks all enemies. Oh my god, that's actually huge. Wait, his skill 3, if you Soul Burn it, you can do an AoE attack? It does say decrease damage dealt, so I'm assuming the damage will be less than a single target. But you can make it AoE, which is very cool. The original Soul Burn effect granted an extra turn. But now all the damage dealt is decreased. You can hit all enemies if you want. I think that's very interesting. I don't know if we're going to want to do that. We'll have to see the multiplier, how much damage this actually does. Because a lot of times you want to just make sure you kill one problem unit. I don't know how much decreased damage that is. But very, very interesting changes to his kit. And additionally, one of the EEs will be changed to decrease cooldown of Summon Siegfried by 1 turn. All right, Ludwig, very light changes here too, guys. So far, the changes aren't too much. I would say like Lilias had the most like overall changes to her kit. I guess Fallen Cecilia as well. But a lot of these units are only getting like slight adjustments to the skill 3. Which is okay, I guess. But with a limited amount of units and now we have to wait another 8 weeks, I really wish Smilegate would add more to these balance patches. But it is what it is. So Moonlight Blow, we're just getting a 50% combat readiness increase. And instead, it used to be proc during a stun. Now it's just straight up. Okay. Just more viability for Green Ludwig for the few people out there that like to use him still. I imagine most people are using the other Ludwig. But EE changes for him as well. A lot of exclusive equipment changes. So make sure y'all note those if, in case you want to swap them out. Now let's see Roz. I'm actually very curious about this. I'm just going to jump straight to the special change Roz. So X slash. I think was this just the skill 1? Just getting damage dealt increased. Yeah, okay. Which very negligible, like his damage. You never bring Roz for the damage. You bring him, he can do damage via his skill 2, which brings another unit. But Roz himself is doing very negligible damage for the most part. So that's not very interesting. Purifying Flame though. Which I believe is the skill 3, right? Yeah, the skill 3 here. It's also going to have damage dealt increased with healing increased. And then we're changing some of the specially changed runes. This is the back row thing that they actually added later on, not on his initial release. But yeah, it used to be a big barrier of 30% more of the max health is how you would proc it. And now, as long as the unit in the back row is just attacked period when health is 50% or less, grants a barrier to the target for 3 turns. I actually would like effect change on something like this for Bystander Huayang, but she's still relatively new, and I think a lot of people are figuring out how good she actually is. Some people say she's OP, some people say she sucks. But I just want a little bit of a change because whenever you have like things that proc off a certain amount of max health, there's a lot of things that can bypass this. So I like this change where as long as they're attacked with 50% or health or less, so this should just be overall more procs. And now it lasts 3 turns as well. And this is both red, but it looks like he's getting an increased chance to defense break as well to 85, which is a lot. That's an 25% chance increase. Okay. I don't know if this is going to make Roz usable. He is such a relic, meaning like he still has an interesting kit that can be good, but it's been so long. I'm not sure if the newer characters and especially knights kind of just outshine him. Like, am I actually going to bring him over units like Empyrean Illanov? I guess maybe if banning and if we want to really abuse the S2 now that has 85% chance, he's going to have additional healing. His barrier in the back row will be... I'll test them out. I've always liked Roz, but I'm not sure if that's going to actually make him... like meta, which is fine, right? Not every unit needs to be meta. The artifact Wings of Light and Shadow, which is Illanov's artifact, it used to increase damage of the next attack if a crit was made. Now, yeah, this is a typical Smilegate MO for adjusting artifacts. Instead of making it all in on a crit, now it's just going to always give a like an effect period even without critting. So you'll get 14% at max increased damage whenever you just attack period. And a crit will also increase it by an additional 8, right? Which is a net positive. Slightly on the top end. However, just always, in case you don't crit or something, or you're fighting anti-crit, you'll always get that increased damage bonus period. We'll see. I think some people use this artifact here and there, but it's not widely seen. Uberius Tooth, though, let's see here. It used to just give additional damage after a single attack. Now, oh wait, are they making it work on everything now? After attacking, has a 50 to 100% chance to inflict additional damage on the target. So it's no longer single attack only? Oh wow, that might be one of the biggest changes to this whole balance patch, guys. An AoE Uberius Tooth. Please let me know. Some of you guys can come up real quick with who's gonna abuse this artifact. I'm gonna have to cook a little bit, but I think this is gonna be very, very game changing, right? With how many different units now. Ever since the start of the game, guys, a single attack. Now that's gonna be proccing on AoE, and I don't think it doesn't say anything about lowering the damage. So now Uberius is gonna go crazy. Okay. Remember, guys, it's also a warrior artifact, in case you weren't aware. All right, guys, we'll wrap things up here. Nice to see FCC buff. Please buff Celine. Riley got buffed. Okay, so people are pretty happy with this. People wanted Op Sig. It'll come next time. All right. Yeah, I think a lot of Lone Wolf Para relevant changes, as well as like big changes for Red Lilias, Roz. I think the Krau changes are pretty cool too, the built-in Aureus. And then Diene as well. For those of you that don't have like Imperial Illinov and you want some penetration resistance, just make sure she's able to cast that skill 3. Pretty good changes overall, just a little bit light in the grand scheme of like how many units they address. Because remember, these only come out every 2 months, every 8 weeks. So please, Smilegate, I would like to see just a little bit more, like, you know, expand a little bit instead of, what is it, like we had 8 characters this time? 1, 2, yeah, 8 characters. Maybe make it like minimum 10 if we can, just because we wait so dang long. But regardless, I think the changes overall are very good. Let me know what you think. And as always, guys, appreciate every single one of you. Peace out, y'all.